Hello guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. In this video we'll be looking into camera tracking. So while working on this sequence, I will also be explaining about focal length, film back and some other important aspects. So I request you guys to watch this complete video. So let's get started. So I have this standard 1080p sequence. So I will add a camera tracker node. So after adding the camera tracker node, so the first thing we'll be doing is, so I'll go to the settings and I will preview these features. So let's say I give 200 features. So you can see that the features are covered in this entire sequence. So the problem is that we don't need features in some areas like in this cycle, so and those people, etc. So the reason is because we are going to track only the camera, and these areas have an independent motion. So for example, let's say that you have a sequence where in the sequence there is a chair in the park. So you can have features on the chair because it does not have any motion. So let's say you have another sequence where there is a guy who is pushing the chair, and in that case you don't want features on the chair because now the chair has motion. This is something you got to remember, which is sort of a basic. So in order to remove these features, so we have to rotate this particular area and apply this as mask alpha in the camera tracker option. So here there is an option called as mask. So if we make a roto for this particular area and mask it, so we can say to Nuke that in these particular areas I don't want features to be present. So in order to remove these features, we have to roto and apply as mask alpha. So I will be adding roto to these areas. So this might take a while, so I think I'm gonna skip it. So guys, I have made roto in the areas where there is motion. So what we have to do is, I will connect this roto as a mask to the camera tracker. So in the camera tracker, if I change the option from mask to mask alpha, and now if I do preview the features, so you can see that the areas where I did make a roto does not have any features in it. So there might be a situation where you want to track only the motion of a particular area. So in that case, you can enable this mask inverted alpha so that the features will appear only on the area where the roto is done and not on the other areas. So in this case, as we are tracking the camera, so I will be enabling mask alpha. So the next thing we have to focus is the film back value of a sequence. So I do know the film back of this sequence, which is 1.247 into 0.702. So this is sort of an important thing which you should not skip, because so if the film back is wrong, the focal length which is going to calculate is also going to get the wrong value, which is also something which you should remember. So if you don't know the film back value, just check the resolution for the sequence and just Google it. You will find the approximate film back values. Please do that before the tracking. I will also be setting this camera motion as a free camera, because you can see that the sequence has a translation. I will be giving this in and out values, which will be 200 to 317. So lens distortion is something we can let the software to calculate. So I will also be giving the focal length as unknown constant. So if you do know the focal length value, you can give it as known and give that particular value. As of now, I will be giving this as unknown constant. So as I have said that I have set this as free camera, but if you do have a nodal pan shot, I suggest you to give this as a rotation only concept. So now the basic required details are given. So let's track the sequence. So guys, the tracking part for this sequence is done. So I will click solve. So guys, the solve for this camera is done. So we can see the error value is 4.6, so which is not a good error value. So let's fix this. So the first thing we could do is go into this auto track option. So the delete solved is something where the track is there but it was unable to solve. So we could delete this unsolved, and we can also delete the rejected points. And what I will be doing is I will enable this focal length, position and rotation. So if you are working on a nodal shot, you need not enable this position value as it has only rotation. So as this is a free move camera, I will be enabling this position also. So I will refine this solve. So guys, after refining this solve, click this update solve. Now you can see the error value is 1.13, so which is sort of a decent. So if you have an error value below 1, so it means it is sort of a good error. So any sort of an error value which is 1.1 or 1.2 is acceptable. So but if you have an error value of say 2 or 3 or 4.6, which we got in the start, so it is not an acceptable error. So this is a decent acceptable error, so I will further proceed with it. So the main part of this process is to get the camera of this sequence. We can create the camera, but in order to work things in 3D, we do need a scanline render as scene, and also lens distortion if that is what the case you are working in this camera. So we can create all these nodes as a package, which is called as the scene plus, which we do have here. So we can see the scene, the lens distortion, point cloud, scanline render, and the important thing, which is the camera. So now if we do connect this to the viewer, so we can see the point clouds which has been replaced to this camera tracker. So we do have a small issue. If we go into this 3D, we can see that the camera is not perfectly oriented to this ground plane. So this track points should be perfectly aligned to the ground plane, because in 2D if we look at this sequence, we can see the track points are placed on this road. So let's say if I want to create a road in the 3D, so it will be hard for me to create because the points are not perfectly aligned on the ground plane. So we have to fix this issue. So as of now, I'll be deleting these nodes. So if I select this camera tracker, so you can see the track points in here, so which is stick to the ground. So what I'll be doing is I will hold shift and select these track points. So we'll also go to a different frame and select these track points, and finally in here, these are the track points which are on the road, which means this track point should be on ground plane. So what I'll be doing is I will right click, and there is an option called as ground plane, and I will click this as set to selected. So now you can see that this track points has turned into violet, which means that we have set this as a ground plane. So now if we redo the same process like creating this scene plus, I will connect this to scanline render, and now if we go to 3D, so now we can see the track points which are perfectly aligned to this ground plane. So if I do create a card here, so let me set this card to this ground plane. So guys, now I have set this card. So if I go to the 2D view, so you can see that the card has perfectly aligned to this road. So guys, if you want to move the card to any particular area, so there is a translation, rotation and scale which you can do here in the properties, or there are translation handles here which you can move here manually, or let's say you want to use rotation. In that case, press Ctrl, you can see the rotation handles, and if you want to scale it, press Ctrl and Shift, you can see the scale handles. So you can use either in viewer or in the properties section. So now I have perfectly arranged this and it is matching the road. So I will add a texture and check with this. So I will be adding a checkerboard and connecting this to the image. So the checkerboard texture has been applied. So I will use a multiply node. So I'm using this node to lower the opacity. So let's keep it 0.5. So I will disable the point clouds for a better view. So guys, if I play the sequence, the camera here perfectly matches the checkerboard. So if you want to add any CG or for any cleanup, so this camera works good. So guys, that's all for this video. I will be making more tutorials on Nuke. So please do subscribe to my channel and not miss any updates. So I'll be seeing you guys in my next video. Peace.